Picture a 1-year-old blowing out candles on her birthday cake. Now picture the same scene. Same cake, same candles, same little girl, 10 years later. Brooke Greenberg was born in 1993. By 2003, she should have been a 10-year-old. Lost teeth, growth spurts, entering middle school. Instead, she looked exactly like she did at age 1. Same size, same proportions, same baby fine hair. Time was moving forward. Her body refused to follow. This isn't a movie. This isn't science fiction. This is the true story of a girl whose biology broke the fundamental rule of human existence. That we age, we grow, and time always wins. Except in Brooke's case, it didn't. Doctors would spend decades trying to explain her. Geneticists would sequence her DNA looking for answers. Scientists would study her cells under microscopes, searching for the biological clock that somehow got stuck. What they found was more disturbing than any diagnosis. Brooke wasn't frozen in time. She was aging at her own pace, one completely disconnected from the rest of reality. And the implications of that discovery would force medicine to confront a terrifying question. What if aging isn't inevitable? What if it's just optional? This is the story of Syndrome X, the girl who never grew up, and the medical mystery that might hold the key to understanding why any of us age at all. Maryland, USA. Brooke Greenberg's parents knew something was wrong when their daughter turned 2. Not because she was sick, not because she was in pain, because she still looked exactly like she did at 6 months old. Same weight, same height, same impossibly tiny hands and feet. Her 3 older sisters were growing normally, hitting milestones, outgrowing clothes, losing that baby roundness in their faces. Brooke looked like she'd been paused mid-infancy. Her parents took her to the pediatrician, expecting a simple explanation. Growth hormone deficiency, maybe thyroid issues, something fixable. The doctor measured her, weighed her, checked her charts, then measured her again, convinced the scale was broken. Has she always been this small? She hasn't grown in over a year, her mother said quietly. The doctor's face went pale. They ran tests, blood work, bone scans, hormone panels. Everything came back normal. Functioning metabolism, working organs. Her body was doing everything it was supposed to do, except grow. By age 5, Brooke weighed 16 pounds, about the size of a 6-month-old infant. She could fit in infant clothes, infant car seats. Her parents could still cradle her in their arms like a newborn. But she wasn't a newborn. She was a kindergartner, and the gap was getting wider. Specialists were called in. Endocrinologists examined her pituitary gland. Geneticists scoured her DNA for mutations linked to dwarfism, progeria, any known growth disorder. Nothing matched. Her bones weren't just small. They were structurally immature, like they'd never gotten the signal to develop. Her teeth stayed baby teeth. Her proportions remained infant-like. One doctor looked at her x-rays and said something that made everyone in the room go silent. Her skeleton looks like it's 1 year old. but her birth certificate says she's 5. Her body was living in a different timeline than the rest of the world, and no one could explain why. So they gave her condition a name, not because they understood it, but because they had no idea what else to call it. Syndrome X. The placeholder name for the impossible. Here's where Brooke's story gets truly unsettling. Because it wasn't just that she wasn't growing. Different parts of her body were aging at different rates. Let me explain what that means. Most growth disorders are consistent. If you have dwarfism, your whole body follows a predictable pattern. If you have a hormone deficiency, everything slows down proportionally. Brooke's body was doing something no one had ever seen before. Selective aging. Her bone age was stuck around 1 year old, but her teeth were developing at a slightly different rate. Her hair growth was different from her nail growth. Her brain development was happening on its own timeline, separate from everything else. It was like her body had multiple clocks, all running at different speeds, none of them synchronized. One researcher described it as biological chaos. By age 10, Brooke's body presented an impossible mix of developmental stages. Skeletal structure of a 1-year-old. Some organ development closer to 4 to 5 years. Cognitive function that defied easy categorization. Cellular markers that didn't match any known age. She wasn't frozen. She was fragmenting. And here's what made scientists' skin crawl. This suggested aging itself wasn't a single process. Think about that for a second. We assume aging is universal. You're born, time passes, you get older. Simple, linear, inevitable. But Brooke's body was proof that aging might actually be dozens, maybe hundreds, of separate biological processes, all running on independent timers. And in her case, those timers had fallen completely out of sync. Johns Hopkins researchers started studying her at a cellular level. They took tissue samples, blood samples, analyzed her DNA with every tool modern science had. What they found was stunning. Her cells showed remarkably little damage. The kind of cellular wear and tear that accumulates with age, oxidative stress, DNA degradation, telomere shortening, was progressing far more slowly than normal. It was like her cells had their own internal clock, ticking at 1/10 the normal speed. But here's the heartbreaking reality, the sensational headlines always ignored. Brooke wasn't living some fairy tale of eternal youth. Her cognitive development was significantly impaired. She never spoke, never walked independently, required round-the-clock care. She wasn't a child trapped in an infant's body with normal adult thoughts. She was someone whose entire being, mind and body, was developing on an entirely different timeline from the rest of humanity. And that raised a darker question. Was this a medical condition? Or was Brooke accidentally showing us that time itself is negotiable? When researchers at Johns Hopkins examined Brooke's cells under a microscope, they were looking for defects. They found perfection instead. Or at least something disturbingly close to it. Normal human cells accumulate damage over time. It's unavoidable. Every time a cell divides, tiny errors creep in. DNA gets damaged by radiation, by oxygen, by simple metabolic processes. proteins misfold. Cellular machinery wears down. This is aging. At the most fundamental level, aging is just accumulated damage. Brooke's cells weren't accumulating damage at the normal rate. They were remarkably pristine. Dr. Richard Walker, a researcher who studied her for years, was transfixed. He'd seen cells from children, from adults, from elderly patients. He knew what damage looked like at every stage of life. Brooke's cells didn't fit the pattern. "It's as if her cells don't know how old they are," he said in an interview. But it wasn't just that her cells were healthy. It's that they seemed to be ignoring the signals telling them to age. Here's how it's supposed to work. Your body has what scientists call a developmental clock, a genetic program that guides you from embryo to infant to child to adult. Genes turn on and off in sequence, like a complicated recipe being followed step by step. Grow bone here. Develop this organ. Start puberty. Stop growing. Begin aging. Brooke's clock was broken. Not stopped. Not running backward. Desynchronized. Some of her genes were active when they should have been dormant. Others were silent when they should have been working. It was like reading a book with all the chapters shuffled randomly. And this led researchers to a disturbing realization. What if aging isn't programmed? What if it's a coordination problem? Think about an orchestra. If every musician plays their part perfectly but at different tempos, you don't get music. You get noise. Brooke's body was playing every instrument at a different speed. Most people's bodies stay synchronized. Growth happens in coordination. Aging progresses uniformly. Brooke proved that synchronization can fail. And when it does, the normal rules of time stop applying. But here's the question that haunted researchers. If Brooke's aging could desynchronize, could someone else's be resynchronized? Could we slow aging deliberately? Speed it up in specific areas? Target just the parts that break down? Was Brooke accidentally revealing that aging is hackable? Let's address the elephant in the room. The media loved Brooke's story. Headlines like "The Girl Who Never Grows Old" and "Real-Life Benjamin Button" circulated for years. But those headlines were lies. Comfortable lies, but lies nonetheless. Brooke wasn't living some whimsical existence. She wasn't conscious and aware in a child's body, experiencing eternal youth. She required total care, feeding tubes, constant medical supervision. She never developed language, never walked, never experienced independence. Her quality of life was profoundly limited. And that's the part people don't want to talk about, because it complicates the fantasy. We want aging to be the villain. We want to believe that if we could just stop our bodies from aging, everything would be perfect. Brooke's life was proof that stopping aging doesn't mean preserving life. Because here's what her condition actually revealed. Aging isn't one thing. It's everything. It's not just wrinkles and grey hair. It's brain development, bone growth, hormonal maturation, cognitive advancement, immune system refinement. When you desynchronize all of that, when the brain ages at one rate, the bones at another, the cells at a third, you don't get eternal youth. You get biological incoherence. Brooke's body was trying to be an infant, a toddler, and a teenager simultaneously. And the result wasn't a superpower. It was a life that required constant medical intervention just to survive. So when researchers talk about her case as a breakthrough in aging research, they're talking about understanding, not replication. No one wants to recreate what happened to Brooke. They want to understand it well enough to control it. Because if we can figure out what went wrong with her biological clock, maybe we can figure out how to adjust ours. Gently, precisely, without breaking everything else. Brooke Greenberg passed away in 2013 at the age of 20. Not from old age, not from her aging condition, from an illness completely unrelated to Syndrome X. She died young, but not because her body failed to age. She died because ultimately, living is dangerous regardless of what your cells are doing. But the questions her life raised are still unanswered. Because Brooke proved something scientists are still grappling with. Aging is not a monolithic force. It's a collection of separate processes that usually stay synchronized, but don't have to. Think about what that means. Right now, your bones are aging. Your skin is aging. Your brain is aging. Your heart, your lungs, your DNA, all of it marching forward together in lockstep. But Brooke's body proved those processes can drift apart, which means they might be controllable independently. Imagine if we could slow brain aging without touching bone development, or keep skin cells young without affecting organ function. Imagine if we could pick and choose which parts of our body age and which parts don't. That's what Brooke's biology hinted was possible. Researchers are still studying her genetic material, her tissue samples, her cellular behavior, trying to find the master switch that desynchronized her development. Because if they can find it, if they can understand what failed in her case, they might be able to control it in hours. Not to stop aging completely, but to slow the parts that matter, to give people more years of healthy brain function, to keep hearts strong longer, to delay the breakdown that makes old age so brutal. Brooke wasn't a miracle. She was a glitch that revealed aging works differently than we thought. And glitches, once understood, can be engineered. Brooke Greenberg never knew she was changing the world. She lived her life quietly, in her family's care, experiencing the world in ways we can't fully understand. But her existence asked a question medicine is still trying to answer. What if aging is optional? Not in the sci-fi sense, not eternal youth or immortality, but in the sense that aging might be a series of biological switches we can learn to control. Because if one girl's body could age at 1/10 the normal rate, then aging isn't an absolute law. It's a variable, and variables can be adjusted. The science is still decades away, maybe longer, but Brooke's legacy is the proof of concept. Her life was hard. Her condition was tragic in many ways. But what she showed us might one day save millions, not by making us younger, but by giving us more time to be ourselves before the clock runs out. Brooke Greenberg lived 20 years in a body that never caught up with time. And in doing so, she proved that time itself might not be as fixed as we think. That somewhere in our DNA, in our cells, in the machinery of life, there's a clock we can learn to slow. We just have to figure out how. And if you thought a body that ages slower than time was impossible, wait until you hear about the man who lived with 90% of his brain missing, and nobody noticed until he was 44 years old. That story's next.